Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Friends and Fiction Show. I'm Kristin Harmel.
I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
I'm Mary Kay Andrews.
And last but not least, I'm Patti Callahan Henry.
And this is Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support independent bookstores, authors, and librarians. We are thrilled to be gathered together with you tonight for our one live show of the month. And remember, because it's a live show, we'll be able to see your comments and questions in real time. And we may even ask a few of tonight's guests. So get your questions ready.
If you're not with us already, we hope you'll join our Facebook group, which is more than 250,000 members strong. We'd also like to invite you to follow us on Instagram and YouTube and to subscribe to our Substack newsletter, which is full of awesome bonus content. You can find out more about our community and all we have to offer at friendsandfiction.com.
Now, tonight, we are thrilled to welcome this month's Friends and Fiction featured author, our dear friend, Pam Jenoff, to discuss her new novel, our February 2025 pick of the month, Last Twilight in Paris. Released on February 4th, it became an instant New York Times bestseller. Yay, Pam! But before we get to Pam, we wanted to tell you about something super special we have coming up in just a few weeks.
And Pam's going to be there.
No, she's not going to be in Atlanta. She's going to be in New Jersey.
We just get so excited. We're like,
I was just going to say,
did
you just commit to poor Pam? She's like, I didn't know I was coming to Atlanta.
News to her.
Yeah, news to her. All right, y'all, I'm really excited to talk about this. So many of you know that the 4 of us run Friends and Fiction, and it's so fun to be on the screen together, but it's even more fun to be in person together. So Mary Kay Andrews, Kristy Woodson Harvey, Kristin Harmel, and me, Patti Callahan Henry, I can say everyone else's name but mine, are all New York Times bestselling authors. And each time one of us releases a book, we all get together in real life to celebrate with each other, with Meg and Ron and all our friends, and with you. So I'm up next. In less than a month, like 3 weeks and 5 days, I don't have butterflies. We all get together in real life to celebrate. The new book, my new book, The Story She Left Behind, comes out on March 18th, but we are going to celebrate the night before on St. Patrick's Day, or as Bubba recently called it on Instagram, St. Patty's Day this year, with a big launch party event at the Atlanta History Center, and you are invited. So tickets are on sale now, and they're going fast. The Atlanta History Center is an incredible place to have an event, and we hope that you will join us before they sell out.
Definitely. We can't wait to celebrate this great book, and we hope you'll join us. Every ticket includes both a copy of The Story She Left Behind, plus admission to the special pre-conversation reception and photo ops with all of us. And of course, all 4 of us will be signing books and chatting with you after the show.
You know, before we bring Pam on, I wanted to ask you guys, what's your favorite part of doing these Friends and Fiction live events? How about you, Kristy?
You know, I just think it's like seeing the community, the Friends and Fiction community. And honestly, I mean, the interaction with us is great, but seeing the interaction with like them interacting with each other is so cool, because it's just something that we only see online, and it's like the Facebook group come to life. It's so
Yeah.
Lots of people come in from out of town just for these events. So, and we've got to know so many of y'all who, it just makes our heart happy to see you. Plus, we get to hang out in real life, and and wear makeup and shoes.
Yeah.
That's true.
My favorite part is exactly what you both said, but there's also this added element of watching everyone interact.
Yeah.
Right. And by now, almost 5 years in, there's the private jokes. There's the, memories of other events. We just had a discussion about one of our other favorite live events. And I love that people will travel to come in for it. It's like a reunion. It's like a family reunion. So I hope you all will come be part of something that fun. How about you, Kristy?
Atlanta's easy to get to from anywhere.
Yes.
That's actually a good point. That's very true.
Yeah.
For me, I was thinking about this, and I feel like when we're together at one of these big live events, I feel like this current of energy is like running between the four of us, like zing, zing, zing back and forth. And then it like runs out to the audience and comes back. And it's just like a big ball of like amazing, happy energy in the room that is all real and all coming from the right places. So I don't know. There's just nothing like, no, there is stuff like it. It's like, to me, it feels like going to a cool concert where you're like kind of caught up.
There you
and
go.
Everyone's excited and everyone knows the lyrics to the song. And it's just a lot of fun. So anyhow, we also want to remind you of another fun way to get your hands on Patti's book, as well as the upcoming releases from me and from Kristy. So we've partnered with Oxford Exchange, which is, of course, a fabulous independent bookstore in Tampa, to create the Friends in Fiction 2025 subscription box. For one flat rate that includes shipping, you'll receive signed hardcover first editions of the 3 2025 releases as they come out. So, of course, that means Patti's The Story She Left Behind in March, Kristy's Beach House Rules in May, and The Stolen Life of Colette Marceau in June. So it's like the gift that keeps on giving because you get 3 separate shipments plus exclusive gifts, which are a Friends in Fiction friendship bracelet and a car magnet that are available only in this bundle. So visit Oxford Exchange to get yours. You can find out more on the subscription box and on the March 17th St. Patty's Day event in Atlanta on friendsandfiction.com.
I love it. Okay, so while we're announcing things, we're 3 months out from Beach House Rules, which is crazy. I am behind. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. But my pre-order freebies are live, which is really exciting. So all the information is on my website, KristyWoodsonHarvey.com, or on Instagram or Facebook. But if you pre-order the book from your bookseller of choice, and of course the Friends in Fiction box counts, well, you get this pretty soft, I guess it's like a little vegan leather keychain that says Beach House Rules.
That's
I love it.
cute.
I'm excited about it.
I want
Signed
one.
plate and this fun refrigerator magnet. And this is not the real bookmark. The real bookmark matches this, and it's super cute. I got the proof of them today, but they have not come in yet. So anyway, it's fun pre-order freebies. And again, all the information's on my website. And thank you for your support. I can't wait to share the story of a mother-daughter duo learning to lean on their community of women and each other after their world is turned upside down. I realized today it's kind of like Fuller House.
I like that.
It's like moms that move in together to raise their kids with,
I like that comparison. I just started reading it. It's so good so far. I'm so excited. Okay, so all right, without further ado, it is time to welcome our friend Pam Jenoff. So Pam is the New York Times bestselling author of several novels, including Codename Sapphire, The Woman with the Blue Star, The Lost Girls of Paris, and The Orphan's Tale. She's also authored short stories in the anthology Grand Central and in the Blaze collection for Amazon Original Stories.
After earning her master's in history from Cambridge, Pam accepted an appointment as special assistant to the Secretary of the Army, which sounds made up and is not. The position provided a unique opportunity for her to witness and participate in operations at the most senior levels of government, including helping the families of the Pan Am Flight 103 victims secure their memorial at Arlington National Cemetery, observing recovery efforts at the site of the Oklahoma bombing, and attending ceremonies to commemorate the 50th anniversary of World War II.
Following her work at the Pentagon, Pam moved to the State Department. In 1996, she was assigned to the U.S. Consulate in Krakow, Poland. It was during this time that Pam developed her expertise in Polish-Jewish relations and the Holocaust. Pam left the Foreign Service in 1998 to attend law school, and she graduated from the University of Pennsylvania. She worked for several years as a labor and employment attorney, and she now teaches law school at Rutgers. She lives outside Philadelphia with her husband, 3 children, a dog, 2 cats, a lizard, and a bird.
That is a full house,
Are we
Kristy.
going to get
bringing it back around to full
right?
house?
Full house.
Her new novel, Last Twilight in Paris, was just released on February 4th and is already an instant New York Times bestseller, which you guys is really a big deal. So we cannot wait to talk to her about it. Sean, can you bring Pam on, please?
Hello.
Hi, friend. It's so good to see you.
Hi.
We are very happy to have you. Welcome to the Friends in Fiction Show. So let's dive right in. In Last Twilight in Paris, you take readers to the war-torn French capital in the early 1940s, where the Leviton department store served as a prison camp for hundreds of Jewish prisoners, right in the middle of the city. Around this fascinating historical story, you also spin a second tale, grounded in 1953, as a young British mother stumbles across a necklace she last saw during her wartime Red Cross service and sets out to trace its journey. The trail takes her to Paris, to an old love, and to the secrets hidden within the now shuttered department store, which she learns was a satellite camp that often held prisoners before they were deported to Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen. Can you tell us a little bit more about the book? And then our favorite question, what is it really about at its core?
Well, thank you, Kristin. That description was amazing. And I'm intimidated not only by your apt description of the book, which I can't quite do, 2 weeks, but also your French accent. Do you speak French? That was like impeccable.
Oh, not very well. I mean, I lived in Paris for a little while, but my accent is terrible.
My accent,
Better than ours.
yeah, my accent is Jersey, so it's not going to be.
Mine is North Carolina.
Yeah,
So.
it's much prettier. So you've described the book so well. But essentially, when the book starts in 1953, we meet Louise. She is a wife and mom in England, and she's kind of wrestling with her post-war role. She did amazing things during the war, and now she's just back to ordinary life. And as you said, when she finds this necklace in a secondhand shop, it's I don't know if you ever heard. It's called a Mizpah charm, and it's one of those hearts that like breaks in half, so one person can wear one half and one person can wear the other half. And the half she finds, she's convinced not just that she has seen a necklace like it, but that this is the very necklace she saw during the war. And she saw a POW hand it to her friend Franny hours before Franny was found dead outside a POW camp. So Louise is convinced that if she can trace the origin of the necklace, she can find out the truth about what really happened to Franny when she died. So,
I love that.
and you asked me about the real meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in all of my books, I want to talk about the gray areas, and I want to talk about individual decision making, because as we all know, and Kristin, you write beautiful books set around the war, history is not made up of these great battles. It's actually made up of an infinite number of individual people making decisions. And so that's what these books are about for me. It's about the strength of these women and how they come together, but ultimately it's about human choice. And that's what I come back to.
And I feel like that's what all your books are about. So it's not just this book, right? You've returned to this theme over and over.
But not consciously. Like I'm not one of those people who goes like, I will write a book about, about refuge or human.
It's what you care about. Yeah.
Right? It just comes through. I'm a pantser. It comes through the writing. And then I was in Boston a couple of weeks ago with Hank Philippi Ryan, and she was like, oh, well, the necklace. And I was like, yes, it really means that. But I never think of it on the front end. I'm just not that intuitive, So,
well, it's amazing. So you talk in your author's note, which is often one of my favorite parts of anyone's book, especially someone I know. And you talk about the gasp with a capital G. I call it the chill bump moment, but it's that time when you're reading through history or digging into a rabbit hole of research and you find something that makes you gasp out loud in surprise. So after more than a quarter century of working with World War II history, tell us about the gasp moment for this book.
So the gasp moment was, I'm going to say it worse than Kristin, but I say Levitan, but I know there's a much better way to say that with the French accent. But discovering that there was a store right in the middle of Paris, one of those grand stores with the courtyard and the terraces inside. And it was, in real life, it was a furniture store. And I refer to it as a department store in my book. So I want to make that distinction. I've taken a liberty there. where Jewish prisoners were forced to stay, and they stayed on like sort of an upper floor dormitory, and they were forced to sort and sell plunder from Jewish homes. So if you imagine in Paris, when the Nazis arrested individuals or families, they would take everything from the apartments or the houses. And these were big items like pianos and armoires. And these were little items like toys and silverware. And these items were loaded onto French moving trucks, and the trucks would roll up to the back loading dock of the store. And the prisoners were forced to unload the stolen goods, sort them. Some were sent to Germany, some were repaired, and some of them were actually put on the floor of the department store, on the floor of the store, where the Jewish prisoners then had to serve as clerks and sell these items to high-ranking officers who would come in. And this was such a gasp for me that I did not know this history, and I knew it would feature centrally in the book.
It is a fascinating piece of lost history. Just when you think there's not another piece of lost history to be found, we find out these, and it's not even the monster things like the battle that was won, like you said earlier, but these stories of people being put inside of a store. Yeah. So why did you change it? Can you talk about making that choice for your story? Why is something like that necessary for the story? And is it sometimes difficult to adjust history that way?
You know, it's funny. Sometimes you have something in history in your mind a certain way, because I'm, as a historical fiction researcher, and Kristin, I don't know how it is for your Patti when you write historical fiction, but when I'm a contemporaneous researcher. So some people research for months ahead of time. And for me, I start with some research and then I kind of toggle between research and writing on a need to know basis. And this is somewhat efficient because to me, research brain and writing brain, they're different times of the day, you know? So sometimes I might have it in my mind a certain way. And I'll go, like, I'm picturing Levitan as kind of a department store. And then I look at my notes, I'm like, it is a furniture store. And I think that just the slight shift for me from furniture to department store allowed me to have in the human interaction and in the symbolism of some of the objects. And, you know, my character, Helene, she had visited the store as a young girl. And so I felt that having that visually as a department store was just a little more powerful for me.
Yeah. Let's talk about.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think it also helps situate it in Paris a little bit too. Cause like, I think when you think of Paris, you can visualize immediately a department store there. Whereas a furniture store is a little bit, I don't know. It's not the first thing you think
No, it
of.
makes me think of Sears or JCPenney, right?
Yeah, or
But
something like that.
yeah. A department store is a little more glamorous in some ways too. And it adds a lot of alternate things that could be in there. So
yeah, very true.
Yeah. Let's go back to, is it Helene? Is that how we say it instead of Helene?
I would say Helene, but I'm not even sure that's right with the French. So
okay. Kristin?
Yes, Helene, I think. Yes.
Helene anchors your story in wartime Paris. And then in 1953 England, the post-war era, you have Louise who stumbles across a necklace she is certain she saw before. I just want to stop for a minute and say, Pam, I thought you captured the feeling of post-war England so beautifully. You know, there's still, my parents were stationed in England right after the war. My dad was in the Air Force. And my mother used to talk about, you know, everything was still rationed and things were really still tough. And the war was technically over, but maybe not so much. Anyway, can you tell us? And then, of course, you've got Louise who stumbles across a necklace she is certain she saw before. Could you talk a little bit about the inspiration for both of these characters?
So for me, for Louise, I am fascinated by people who go somewhere else and have an extraordinary experience and come back a different shape, right? They're forever changed and they're trying to fit into their lives. So I lived in Europe for almost 5 years and there's things that are just changed forever. You know, I lived in Poland where you couldn't get lettuce in the winter. And to this day, I don't underestimate a good produce department. Like I'm being a little flip, but really you're just changed. And then you come back to your life and you're trying to do the ordinary things. And that's how Louise feels to me. She's a woman who had all these experiences and now she's coming back to a life. And it's complicated by the fact that she and her husband Joe both had very severe traumatic experiences during the war that they really don't talk about. And I think that was part of the post-war culture in Britain. There was a little bit of that sort of stiff upper lip and you just get on with it. And so they really haven't fully communicated what they went through. And it's really in the way of their marriage. And so part of the story is Louise, by going away and finding the truth about what happened to her friend, she's hoping sort of to come home again.
Beautifully said.
Yeah. So you also have a very colorful character named Franny Beck at the heart of this story. And I understand that you based her on the famous French singer. I would say Edith Piaf, but my friends on YouTube pronunciation said Edith Piaf. So we're going to go with that, who sang La Vie en Rose. So can you tell us about Edith's real life story and how it served as inspiration for your fictional Franny?
Yeah. So I was fascinated by the story of Piaf. I'm just calling her Piaf because I'm going to butcher the first name. Because she was a French singer and she was invited by the Germans to perform for their officers. And Piaf said, I will only go perform for your officers if I may perform for the POWs as well. And for the rest of her life, there's some really good biographies. She was branded a collaborator. But in fact, there are stories, and I'm not sure how confirmed they are, that when she would go into the POW camp, she would pose for photographs with the prisoners. And those photographs were then cropped to just show the prisoner, and identification papers could be forged to help them escape. And so that was what inspired me and fascinated me. And so Franny in my book is a British performer, which makes it a little bit different. But she goes over and Louise questions when she first meets her, like, how can you do this? But as she scratches the surface, she discovers Franny has those ulterior motives for going.
It's so fascinating to find out where your characters and their motivations come from. Because some of it's from something real and then some of it's straight up your imagination. So we mentioned in your bio that you had an incredible career prior to becoming a novelist, including stints at the Pentagon as the special assistant to the Secretary of the Army. And in the mid-90s at the State Department, where you were assigned, not that I'm telling you about your life, but you were assigned to the U.S. consulate, as you mentioned, in Krakow, Poland. While you were there, you worked on matters such as the preservation of Auschwitz and the restitution of Jewish property in Poland. That almost made me choke up a little bit. So tell us how that experience, you were just talking about people having an experience and being reshaped by it and coming back a different person. So how did those experiences shape your life and therefore your career as a novelist?
Well, I'll just talk. It's mainly about the State Department, and thank you for that question. The Pentagon, I was able to go work as a political appointee for someone very senior, for the Secretary of the Army. And I had worked for him at a law firm in college because I needed to pay the bills. And so when I saw he was appointed, I wrote to him and I said, can I come work for you? And he hired me. And I was only there for a year, but it was the year that, to paraphrase Sir Isaac Newton, I saw the world from the shoulders of giants. And so I got to go around the world with him. It's funny, we just had the 80th anniversary commemorations. I was there for the 50th anniversary commemorations at Bastogne and Corregidor, and I really got to see the world. And then when my State Department commission came up, I thought, all right, I'm going to go do this from the ground up. So I was sent to Krakow. I went halfway around the world. I had no friends and no family. I went alone. And this is before we had cell phones or the internet. And so I was completely isolated over there. And I'm Jewish. And so I gravitated toward the surviving Jewish community that still lived in Krakow. And I went to their synagogue every Friday night, and I went to the rabbis for lunch every Saturday, and they became like grandparents to me. And so the U.S. government saw that I was close to these people, and they said, well, you work on all that stuff from the war. It was kind of this body of stuff that they couldn't resolve during communism, all the wartime issues. And I did that for over 2 years, and it was really rewarding, really challenging, both personally and professionally, because you're living right on top of the war. In order to get your car fixed at a mechanic, you drive past the camp from Schindler's List, like you're kind of right there. And so these experiences really transformed me, and I came back and I started writing about them, and I consider these books love songs to the people who lived through that era.
Oh, wow.
That's incredible. Actually, I have a quick question about that that I wanted to ask. I'm just wondering, with the time you spent with that community, did that change your relationship at all with your religion or with the way that that you practiced or thought about things? Did it shape your faith at all?
It did. So I think for me personally, religion evolves over your lifetime in these different
Yeah,
eras,
I
right? So
agree.
I grew up in the Philadelphia area in a Reformed synagogue, and I went twice a year and all of that. And I went to Krakow, and it was Orthodox and it was Shul, and
Wow.
it was a really different experience. Which even though I'm not Orthodox, I keep that with me. But the other thing that was special in Krakow is I once heard someone ask a rabbi, like, why do you go back to that part of the world where there was so much tragedy? And the rabbi said, because our people were here for 800 years, it's our
Wow.
patrimony. And so there is a sense when you walk around Eastern Europe, I remember the first time I was there, it was visceral and immediate of this, what they call Yiddishkeit. And it's this feeling of Jewishness that's kind of in the ground, you know, that's so special.
Have you ever gone back since your time there? I know you're a mom and you're teaching and writing.
I went back in the early years, but I must share this quick story with you. When I wrote The Woman with the Blue Star, which was 2 books ago, it's set in Poland. I wrote this terrible first draft, and my editor said, no, you have to rewrite the whole thing. So I thought, I am going to make lemonade out of lemons, and I am going to Poland. And so I booked a really nice trip to see everyone I wanted to see, nice airfare, nice hotel, mom only. And I booked that trip for March 11th, 2020. And so when my publisher said to me, you shouldn't go, I said, I'm going. I'm going to wear a mask. Like, I was very stubborn. The flight shut down on March 10th. And thank goodness they did, because I had an emergency appendectomy on March 11th. I would have been in the air going to Poland. So I never got to go. So it's like number one on my list, because in all seriousness, some of the people I love very, very much over there are getting up there in years, and I really want to see them.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Now, you mentioned we're now 80 years removed from the liberation of Auschwitz and the number of survivors that's fast dwindling. Talk a little bit. I think you can't talk too much about why it's so important to keep the stories of the Holocaust, including the lesser known stories such as that of the Leviton department store. Is that so dire, and why is it so needy for keeping it alive for future generations?
Well, of course, the stories have meaning in their own right. And one thing I should mention is, you know, during the communist era, when East and West were really divided, we didn't have the kind of access to archival material that we do post-communism. And I think there's so much material that we're only now discovering. And so we must capture and preserve and tell these stories in any form while we can, for the stories themselves. But they have such important lessons for our world today about, you know, you can have a wide lens or a narrow lens. We can say human rights, we can say fascism, we can say anti-Semitism. Really, the lessons that we take away from the war are as personal and individual as each one of us. But regardless, they have relevance and resonance today.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Pam, we have some great live questions coming in for you. This is one of our favorite things about a live show, just that, you know, the people out there watching and listening to you are the ones who shape the conversation. So we're going to ask you those in a moment. But I wanted to mention first that our friend Marlene Waters hereby dubs Pam and Kristin the kindred spirits of Paris, which I will take, Pam. You
I
and
love
are the
it. I'm
kindred
so
spirits of
honored.
Paris.
I'm so honored.
And Marlene is just the loveliest person. So if she says it, I will take it.
Done.
There are worse things to be dubbed.
Exactly.
say.
That's right.
From experience, I can say that there are.
Exactly. But I will be a kindred spirit with Pam any day.
That's awesome.
So,
Amazing.
Patty, would you like to pull a live question?
Well, this is while you and I were talking about, you know, you leaving the Foreign Service and all of that. This question popped in from a woman named Christine McKenna. And she says, my dad loved you. So you must have worked with him. And he wants to know when you decided to write versus working with the Foreign Service.
Ooh. So the writing, almost, you know how it's not a linear process, right? This pops up in our lives. So I was one of those little kids who always wanted to be a writer, never short stories, never poems. I wanted the book. In fact, my 5th grade yearbook said the next Judy Blume. And then when I met Judy, I was like, huh? See, years later. So I always wanted to write, but I had many years when I had the time and I could never get started. And so what happened was I left the Foreign Service and I had no marketable job skills. So I came back to the United States and I went to law school, and I graduated from law school and I started practicing at a big Philadelphia law firm on September 4th, 2001.
You have impeccable timing.
You do. Your timing.
I should never go. You should never go anywhere with me, right?
You're not picking any of my
We're
dates.
just invited from our lunch that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And so when 9/11 happened a week later, I had this epiphany where I realized that while being a lawyer was a fine and admirable profession, I'd always wanted to be a novelist. And so I didn't have forever. It was this mortality moment. So I actually took a course called Write Your Novel This Year. Right. And I started working on my first book, but it wasn't like okay, I get to go do this now, because I was also an attorney at a big firm with a lot of student loan debt. And so I used to write books from 5 to 7 in the morning and then go to work every day for many years. Now I have 3 teenagers who don't drive yet. And by the way, we're up to 6 pets. I need to add a rabbit to that list. So nobody gets 5.
Just your time spent at the vet. I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I only take care of the dog. My husband takes care of the other 5. And so I found other times to write, but I've always kind of written alongside other things. So I still teach law school and do all the things. And so, and I love that. I love the duality of it, but it wasn't like a moment break in time necessarily.
That's
It was like a slow crawl.
Slow crawl, still crawling.
That's how I started too. 5 to 7 in the morning,
Yeah.
and then I'd go to my other job. That's crazy.
Right.
That was my first few novels.
Being a morning person is like living in a different time zone from your family.
It
It
really
really
is.
Yep.
Can you imagine how much we'd get done if we lived in California? We'd knock out like hours and hours before the rest of the world was up there. Yeah.
I was on vacation with my family and I realized that like they get up 4 hours later than me. So that was golden time for working.
That
Yeah.
is amazing. All right, Kristy, do you want to pull a live question?
I sure do. I will never have that though. But I do have my nighttime. I like to work at night.
Oh, I'm brain dead. As anyone who's ever tuned into Friends in Fiction could probably tell you, I'm brain dead.
Not
past about 6 p.m.
No. Okay. Lynn H said that she was really drawn to Louisa's storyline, and she wants to know, was this how the Red Cross packages were delivered to POW camps?
So let's back up and talk just for a moment about the Red Cross. So I wanted to bring Louisa across, and transporting with the Red Cross seemed like a good way to do it. And the Red Cross is fascinating because, first of all, when the war started and there were initially POWs, not everybody wanted care packages. They felt like this would slow down the war effort. It would get in the way. And then what happened from my point of view is Dunkirk, where thousands and thousands of British troops became POWs, including some from very prominent families. Suddenly people wanted care packages. And so the ways in which they were transported, and I researched it exhaustively, and I couldn't get a great handle on necessarily which routes they would have taken to deliver them in which years. So I absolutely have liberties in the logistics of what I've written, but the story about the dilemmas the Red Cross faced in their role when they were under, in the German territory, and how they were received, that was all very much grounded in history.
Oh, so interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah. Barbara Wojcik asks, was Last Twilight in Paris always the title?
That's a great
No. So can I say something about, can I tell, so I don't know how you feel, but my titles never stay the same. So
No,
I don't remember what my working title was, but at one point it was called like the Department of Stolen Heirlooms, and that went away. But my honest favorite, if I may say this, is I wrote a book years ago that I was calling The Anniversary Clock. This is my working title. I had baby twins. Okay. Now I'm going to be graphic for a second, ladies. When you're feeding baby twins, you have no free hands. Just keep the visual there. So the phone rings and it's like the grand bubby of all editors from the publisher that I was working with. And I go like this, like, yes, God, because I'm feeding twins. And she said, we hate the title, The Anniversary Clock. We're changing it to The Things We Cherished. Click. And that was how that title got changed. Now, fortunately, in my current publisher, it's a very collaborative process and I'm always involved, but my titles almost never stick.
Oh man. And that's always heartbreaking. Like when you're attached to something too, isn't it? Like to me, I go through a little bit of a grieving process when they're like, this has to change. You're like, are you sure? Does it?
I know I'm bad at it, so I don't try not to get too attached, but there are a couple titles and I won't even share them because I still hold deep hope that someone's going to let me use them someday. Those one or two that you really want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
I think, that would be a great Substack topic for us, ladies.
It would be. I have a
Great
lot of
idea.
stories about that. That's a great one.
Oh,
Yeah.
we'll do that, and we'll
Yeah.
include Pam in it. We can talk a little bit more through the Substack.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, I think sometimes you get so attached to a title
Yeah.
and you fight for it and you lose. And then other times, you fight. When I switched publishers, my new publisher had a very, very strong opinion on what she wanted to call the book.
Mhm.
And I don't know how I knew to stand up to her, but I did. And I'm still to this day, I'm so glad that Summer Rental was not called Sea Change.
Oh,
Me
you are
too.
so right.
Because there were 2 other books out that publishing season called Sea Change.
No way.
Wow.
Beach House
You know-
Rules will always be the mommy in my head.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, exactly. The Stolen Life of Colette Marceau, the one that comes out in June. My initial title was All the Diamonds in Paris, which I still love.
I still love it too.
But that's the title the British publisher chose. So I am now in the position of promoting the same book with 2 different titles, which is already very confusing. So titles can really, I think, throw you for a loop.
Titles, I'm so bad at titles. Mary Kay is so good at titles. Mary Kay, you often have your title before you even write the book. So
I do. Sometimes my editor has a very strong opinion, and she has to I really have to sort of let go and let God in that case, because and so lots of times she's right, but when she's not, I gotta get in there and fight for
Isn't
it.
it funny though how some just stick and then some change a million times, and some like
Yes.
it's always been the title, it will always be the title. It was
Yep.
and it just pops in, and it's the
I've
title.
never, the only original title was my first novel. That's the only novel we didn't change the title. Lucy.
You guys, we're giving away our best.
I know.
Keep going. Sorry, back to Pam.
Save it for the
Back to
Substack. All right,
Yeah, back to
Pam,
Pam.
if you'd stick around, we have a couple more questions for you. But first, we have a few quick reminders for our listeners and viewers out there.
So for all of you watching and listening and not wanting to hear about our title woes, we encourage you to rush out and buy your copies of Last Twilight in Paris, which is an amazing title and an amazing cover. And the perfect place, in my humble opinion, to do that is the Friends and Fiction shop on bookshop.org. You'll not only be getting it at a discount, but all your purchases there support our show, our guests like Pam, and independent bookstores nationwide, which is why we started this in the first time.
Yeah, and do not forget to visit friendsandfiction.com for details on our show schedule, upcoming in-person events, and links to the award-winning Friends and Fiction official book club with Brenda and Lisa, our merch store, and our Substack newsletter sign-up.
Speaking of Substack, we hope you'll check ours out. If you're not familiar with Substack, one of the nice things about the platform is that you can read through back issues of our newsletters. There's a ton of content available for free. And with a free subscription, you get an email each week with everything going on in the Friends and Fiction community, plus updates from us every week and frequent special bonus content. But if you upgrade to our paid Substack, which costs about $1.25 per week or even less if you choose a yearly subscription, you'll have access to deeper dives with all our weekly show guests, plus monthly roundtable discussions like the amazing one we just did on our favorite writing tips, and the one that MKA has coming up on rom-coms, and bonus Q&As with even more authors like the ones we recently ran with Marie Benedict, Joe Fender, and Linda Cohen-Loegman. If you enjoy tuning in for our weekly author interviews, this is a big way you can support us for literally like $1 a week. So check us out at friendsandfiction.substack.com.
Okay, switching back to you again, Pam. We know you have a lot of fans waiting to hear about what comes next. Can you tell us anything about the next book you have in the works?
Oh, it's interesting. Usually I'm an open book, no pun intended. But right now, so because I'm a pantser, like I don't know if anyone else is like
I totally am.
Thank you. I meet all these plotters on the road.
I know.
My words are like a big mush. So like if you have like 40,000 words, that means nothing, right? Because it's just a big pile of stuff. So I will say that my next book It will be still in the 20th century, will still be historical fiction, and will still have many of those elements of strong female friendship, and a bit of a mystery. But I believe it'll be something of a departure. And that's all I can say right
Ooh,
now.
I can't wait.
That's all
I
I've
can't
got.
wait to see where you go. This is
Thank
so
you.
exciting.
Yeah, leaving us, wondering. Okay, Pam, also tell us where everybody watching and listening out there can find you online. And I know you said you've got how many more book tour events?
Just about 3. So tomorrow I will be with Pelican Books in Sunset Beach, North Carolina, which is Silver Coast Winery, I believe. This is all on my website, pamjenoff.com. Then I will be with Litchfield Books in Pawleys Island. And then I think I have a big jump other than virtual, and I will be at Brielle Library with Booktown in Manasquan, New Jersey. Oh, wait, I forgot one. Next Monday, I'm going to be at the Barnes & Noble in North Jersey, Clifton, New Jersey, because that is a snow reschedule. Then I will be at Brielle on March 18th.
That's awesome.
Oh,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, Pam, thank you so much for talking to us tonight. We always love having you. It's such a pleasure. And we love how you're open and honest and really, it's just interesting to talk about not just where the stories come from, but how you got to those stories, like how your past shaped you and shaped your pathway into writing. So we loved hearing from you. Thank you so much for being on the Friends in Fiction show with us.
Thank you for having me. I hope to see you all in person, maybe not in Atlanta, maybe in Jersey for
Sorry.
Don't you love how we just jumped to that conclusion?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a long day.
I won't wear
don't know
makeup.
why I said that.
I'll wear shoes, but no makeup.
Okay. We got a
Fair,
deal.
fair.
Oh,
Thank
Pam,
you
it's
so
always
much.
such a delight having you. Always such a delight. Well, everyone out there, be sure to tune in next week when Ron and Mary Kay will welcome #1 New York Times bestselling author CJ Box to discuss the latest in his fan favorite Joe Pickett series, Battle Mountain. Also, don't go anywhere because we're having an after show. But the CJ Box episode will air on the Friends in Fiction page and YouTube channel on Wednesday, February 26th at 7 p.m. And it will be published to our podcast for your listening pleasure, as they say, on Friday, February 28th. And don't forget to visit friendsandfiction.com now, right now, well, after we do the after show, for more information about how you can join the 4 of us in Atlanta on March 17th for the launch party for The Story She Left Behind. We hope to see you there.
Absolutely.
Thank you to all of you out there for being with us. Stick around for a quick live after show with the 4 of us after the credits. Thanks again, Pam. We loved having you. And to everyone out there, we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here. Well, hi again, everyone. It's like we just saw each other. So we are back with an after show, and we thought we would talk about something that is very much on all of our minds right now as we count down the final 3 weeks and 6 days until Patti's book is out in the world. And the publication we're going to have. Sorry, Patti, I don't mean to make it any worse, but we're going to talk about pre-publication jitters. So this is the time in the publishing cycle when you have done everything you can do. The book is in the process of shipping to stores. You've signed the books you have to sign. Your book tour is set. All the cards are on the table. It's exciting to know that the book will be out in a few weeks, but it's also kind of this terrible feeling of powerlessness because, like, you've done it all. As you said, Patti, the other day, the train has left the station. So let me start off by asking you, Patti, with 3 weeks and 6 days to go, how are you feeling?
You know, I think to myself, next book, I won't feel this way. Next novel, I will know that all is well. There's nothing I can do, and I won't have the jitters. And then I wake up with the night sweats, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? And then I'm like, oh, I have to pack for tour. I have to write a speech. So there's, as you, the 3 of you know, and the authors listening, there's a great, it is very hard to separate the excitement about finally having this story in the world, especially after everything I went through with it, and the nervousness about the launch and being on the road and the reception for it. And so sometimes I can't even separate, is that feeling I'm having excited or nervous? It's all mixed up together.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did this year to allay those nerves, and I think it's helping, is I'm doing these every Tuesday before publication live Facebook events. We had one last night, and each live Facebook event, I'm talking about the story behind the story. And people are asking me questions. We had hundreds of people last night. People are asking me questions, and I'm answering them, and I'm getting to talk about the book. And it's starting to give me that feeling that you usually get about week 2 of tour, where you're falling into the rhythm, right?
Oh, that's smart. Okay.
Yeah. So I woke up this morning like, okay, like I'm getting there into the rhythm of it. So that's been really helpful. I've signed all our Oxford Exchange books. So hurry.
That's a lot. And that takes a long time.
It took the weekend. I had my husband flapping. So I'm excited.
Wait. Explain what flapping is, because I know there's someone out there who's like seeing in their head Pat doing this.
Pat flapping his arm.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we have a pile of books, like I'm about to go to Books A Million and sign things in their warehouse. And when I get there, all the books will be on the table, except the flap right here will be on the signing page. So flapping means taking this flap and putting it on the signing page so that when you open a book, you're not flipping around. It's straight to the signing page. Yeah. So that is called flapping. And that is your TED Talk for today.
Well, it seems like a small thing, but doesn't it make the most unbelievable difference?
Yes.
When I get somewhere and there's a pile of books and they aren't flapped, I'm like, can I talk to the man? No, I don't. Security. No, I don't talk to anyone. All right. Enough about me. Kristy, how about you? You're 3 months away from Beach House Rules. How are you feeling at this point, and when did the nerves set in for you?
Okay, so you just made a really interesting point that made me like feel good. So I think 2 things about this launch have been a little bit different, and then I'll get to that. But one is I'm kind of going on a paperback tour this year, which I don't really do at the beginning of May, because it's also my 10-year anniversary of being an author. So I have this kind of like mini tour. Actually, the first event is next week in Salisbury. If anybody wants to come at Catawba College. But I'm doing like this little like sort of pre-week of events. And I feel like that stressed me out a little bit. But then also what you're saying now, I'm thinking that might actually make tour feel better.
Yes.
Because I'm not going on the road to talk about Beach House Rules, but of course, like I'll throw it in there a little bit, right? So I do think it gets you back in that motion of like what it feels like to be on book tour.
Well, Kristy, wait, I want to say something, because what I think it is that all of us have 2 modes: writing mode, in the house, friends and fiction, like we're in that. And it is such a jarring thing to have that work you've been working on for years in the world.
It is.
And anything we can do to bridge that is might be helping a little. Okay. Go ahead.
We've also very like intentionally decided, I tend to be like a really early bird. So like I'm doing all these things like 6 months in advance, and it's just not really, I don't know. We just decided like, okay,
it's
3 months of time. It's when we're really going to start pre-orders. We're really going to start announcing the tour. And we're going to do all the things. So I feel like the next couple weeks are going to be like, it's like when you're getting married and it's like, there's all this stuff to do. And then there's like, not that much to do. Yeah. So I think I'm kind of in that moment of like, there's going to be a lot to do for like 2 weeks. And then I'll kind of be, I'm writing and I'll be like working on essays, which I know, Patti, you kind of probably have that part behind you at this point. Yeah. Do you have like a lot of interviews and stuff coming up?
Yeah, now? There's a few more Q&As and a couple podcasts, but I'm done with the essays and things like that. Yeah. I mean, it's 3 weeks away. I better be done.
Yeah, so you better.
Yeah, true.
I love it. All right. Well, Mary Kay, so how about you? You have been writing for decades. Do you still get pre-publication jitters? I like how I'm asking, like, I have no idea.
I know.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, of course I do. Maybe not to the extent that you all do, only because I've been with this same amazing team I have at St. Martin's Press. We've done 17 books together, I think. And, I've got Meg. Meg steers this ship.
That
And
too.
so,
Yes.
and that helps a lot. And I'm sort of I'm kind of the same way with tour as I am with writing, which is I just go with the flow. I've had all kinds of mishaps happen on tour. And, so the thing I always tell myself is, well, what's the worst that could happen? Because it's probably already happened. And guess what? I still survived.
Yeah.
So,
You are truly the most laid back tour person that I've ever known.
I know.
Well, some people would say I have no F's left to give.
Well, when you're like, I'm like, oh my God, it's 10 and we haven't even had dinner yet. And we've got to be back on the road at 6. You don't have any, you're like, let's have a drink. It'll be great. Like, you're just very chill. You're like, it's just another day at work,
Well, as I say, when you've seen what's the worst that could happen? It's happened. I mean, I've done a book signing at a dead mall where literally the signs were up for, everything is 75% off. Do you want to buy the shelves? Take them. I've done that. I've done signings where you get there and the back in the day, the chain stores would have a CRC communications, whatever that person was. And they're like, they forgot to tell us you were coming. We don't have any signs. So what's the worst the worst that can happen is that the books don't get there.
Yeah.
And all of you have already had that happen too.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
Okay. Kristin, you're out in June.
Yes, that is true. That is true. So, I was thinking, though, the nice thing about doing this on Friends and Fiction is that when we have something terrible happen to us on tour, we at least have a place to come and talk to it. Come and talk about it. Like, in the never-ending text chain that we have between us, where we will immediately talk about it. But then the next live show or the newsletter, or it'll find its way into a story that we eventually tell you. So,
and we probably have a Friends and Fiction reader that knows enough about what's going on that we can sort of roll our eyes at. That's in the audience,
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Listen, everything is material.
Exactly. And I'm also thinking, listening to you guys, since my book is the last of the 3 new ones coming out this year, I really need to get on doing some of the preparation that stresses me out sooner. It really stresses me out to write, to come up with what I'm going to say on my tour speech, to come up with what I'm going to say at bookstores.
Yeah.
And it stresses me out. So I put it off. I just save it and save it and save it until the last minute. But the whole time it's hanging over my head. So I feel like that is something, if I tackle it this month when the book is still fresh in my mind and I'm still 3.5 months out, 4 months out, I feel like I'll be doing myself so much of a favor later. So I am going to do that. But Patti, if readers out there are excited to get their hands on your book, what is one thing they can do to support you in the next, I was going to say the next 4 weeks, but really the support needs to happen in the next 3 weeks.
Right now.
Let's be honest. Yeah.
Well, honestly, I'm sitting here listening to y'all talk about how you manage different things. I think we could write a publication nerve textbook. Here are the 7 things you can do, because we've all discovered different ways of handling, Barry Kay goes on a shoe buying binge, so we can't forget that.
Oh,
Meg, Meg Walker sends me texts like, it's going to be okay. And I'm like, she always knows. So you're right.
Well,
all right.
Meg, I have to say, though, Meg is just pointing out in the comments that Chris Bojalian just sent a very funny newsletter When I read it too, telling the story of the time he vomited in front of a book club while on tour. So just when you think you've heard /seen/done it all, says Meg, which is true. So none of us have done that yet.
He's said terrible things. Do you remember that story that he told about they searched his bag at the airport and they opened it up and it was full of women's like lingerie? And he was like, oh my God, that bag? Like, or the hotel had sent him the wrong laundry bag. And he thought opened up his bag and it was like women's laundry. And he was like, oh my God, I look like such a creep. I'm probably telling the story wrong, but I mean, I cried. I laughed so hard. He told it at like a lab event.
See, so just when you think the worst has happened to you, Chris Bojalian comes along and reminds us that in fact, no, it has not.
Something worse.
Well, now I have another thing to worry about. Jeez Louise. All right. I can give you more than one thing that you can do to support us in the next couple weeks, but this goes for every single one of our books. We are the Friends in Fiction family, and we all support each other. And when we sit down and talk about how do we support the authors here so that we can keep doing all these amazing things with all of you, one is pre-ordering. You can pre-order all of our books right now. All three of us have our book already up. You can get it from all the different venues, and some of them come with signed copies. Some even have bonus gifts. If you follow any of us on Facebook and Instagram, you can find out. Buy tickets to our tour events. If you live in the town where we are coming, my whole tour is up. It's got all the ticket links, and I will be on the road for 30 days with 32 stops from the Southeast to St. Louis to Ohio to Indiana, California, and now I'm going to be adding some more things that are a big surprise. So definitely keep up with us there. And do come to my Tuesday night Facebook Live sessions. I was nervous about doing it, but we had so much fun last night. And every single Tuesday night, we're giving away a prize. It's going to be a book from one of my blurbers and then really special gifts. So each Tuesday night, we will have prizes. So can you guys think of anything else, how they can support you too?
Just, spread the word too. Spread the word about a book that you're excited about that's coming out. I mean, it's a nice friendly thing to do if you're excited about our books.
Well,
so we
and
appreciate
I think, if you have an early copy or as soon as you read it, leave us the review on Goodreads and Amazon.
Yes.
Even if you don't buy the book from there, it really helps. And I haven't talked about this on here, and I was going to tell you guys, update. I got, for the first time ever, 10 years and 12 books in, I got review bombed by bots on Goodreads. And I was
terrible.
But it's been like a few weeks, but Goodreads had them all removed. But it was
they did.
Yeah, it was like a bunch of them. I found out today they had them all removed. So that was amazing. So thank you, Goodreads. But it did make me think, like, sometimes we take.
I hope that's the dog pulling on you like that.
It's the dog. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it is the dog. Were you like, is she having like some sort of fit over here? It's the dog. He's pulling on me.
That's hilarious.
Ever since I said VET, he's been very anxious.
Oh, that's funny.
Pam.
I was going to say, if they wanted to help me, they could plot the next, 100 pages of my book that I'm working on. That can help. I mean, come on, help a sister out.
Yeah.
I love it.
Be careful. You're going to get some plots in your inbox that are going to.
That's right. Careful what you wish for. All right, everyone. One final reminder to come hang out with us on St. Patty's Day, March 17th, for the launch of our own Patty's, The Story She Left Behind at the Atlanta History Center. You can find out more at friendsandfiction.com, or you can go to Patty's website, pattycallahanhenry.com, where you'll find links to the Atlanta event and to her entire super overwhelming tour schedule. Patti, I was looking at it today just to make sure, like, if I'm going to tell people to go there, I want to make sure it's up. And I had like anxiety looking at all. You are going to so many places.
Have we helped? And when you said 30 days, I went, I knew it, but like, does it help when we're freaking out a little bit?
No, it doesn't help. It doesn't help even a little bit. No, it does not help.
It's going to be great. And there's going to be so many people who get a chance to see you, especially people who haven't had a chance to see you before in their area.
It's going to be so much fun.
It's going to be epic.
Kristy, people want you to hold up Salt by popular
come here, Salt.
demand.
Come here. You got to come up here. They want to see you. Or are you now? I mean, now he's like calming on the floor. All right, Salt. Am I getting an angle? Salt.
No, there's Salt. Okay.
Oh, hi, Salt.
Salt.
There's
Aw.
Salt's butt. Okay, there
now
he is.
he's still.
Hi,
Hey.
Say hi. Your fans want to see you.
Hi, Salt.
Oh,
All right, guys. Well, on that note, because there is nothing cuter than Salt, I mean, what can we say? We hope to see you next week on Friends in Fiction, and we hope that we will see you on the road soon, starting with Atlanta on March 17th. Good night, everybody.
good night. See you
Good night,
then.
everyone.